if you look at, there's 50 million creators out there, and there's a vast subset of that can actually make a living off of this. And so what we wanted to do is recognize that, because talent is pretty much universally distributed. I mean, in a country like the US, we tend to have this view that we got all the talent and other people are busy trying to catch up to us. And it's just not true. Humans everywhere are talented. And so what we wanted to do was to recognize that it's opportunity that's not evenly distributed. Talent is, opportunity's not. And if we could create a technology that could scale globally, that will allow talented people everywhere to get a piece of the monetization, we would be fueling creativity in a very democratic way.
Today we're here with Omar Tawakol, CEO and founder of Rembrand.
Omar, great to see you.
Great to see you.
It's been a while. I am glad that we are connecting here. Last time we saw each other, it was in an actual room, so in real life.
That's right.
And now we're here. We've known each other, and a lot of the folks on your team, we've known each other for many, many years. So
absolutely. You've done great things, and I've run into you in various parts of my career and your career.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that, we're kind of like all together, and it's coming 360 in this whole new era of technology and everything else. So, well, it's great to be able to, for all of us to be able to do this once again on a different stage. So let's jump into it. So talk to us. So you've had this amazing background. You are a serial entrepreneur, so you love pain and some types of pleasure that comes with the pain. It is slightly abnormal, as we all are. But now you're in this world where you started something else. Talk to us about your history. Talk to us about BlueKai, how that came together, where that led you, and how you got here today.
Will do, but just to that point about entrepreneurs, I figured there's something kind of odd about me more recently, that I think I'm an adrenaline junkie. And that's why I love startups, because it's as if you're like continually surfing or continually downhill skiing. Like, you cannot take your eyes off the ball. And challenges come at you fast. The other thing that happens when you're running a company is that the variety is like energizing. So, you're on the call with your, chief scientist, and the next call, you're talking to the guy who runs product. The next one is sales, and then it's marketing, and then it's your finance team. And your brain is continuously engaged, and that's why I love to do startups. I think there's got to be an explanation why I would, repeat the insanity over and over. So, BlueKai was a great ride. It was, my second or third gig inside of media tech, and it was by far the most exhilarating, fun trajectory. Our whole point when we were doing BlueKai was to disrupt the way people thought. Back when we started the company, when we wrote the PowerPoint for it in 2007, most of buying was done contextually, either search words at Google or, the tech section of the Wall Street Journal for IBM. That was how people thought, that the words on the page guided the targeting. And our simple insight was, why don't we target people? Based on what we know about the people, which is way more full of context than the words on the page, particularly back then, social and all these image sites that were, pictures of your cats and dogs were all the rage, and those told you nothing about what you're going to buy the weekend. So we had two insights. One, context about people should guide, and the second insight we had was that if we wanted to be the world's best at something, instead of competing with 300 ad networks and all these great ad companies, why don't we become the data platform and data company to supply all of them, so that we become the best at something and not number 3 or number 4. And that was what catapulted the whole experience at BlueKai.
Okay. And then, so BlueKai ended in an acquisition.
Yes.
Or transitioned to an acquisition, didn't end, right?
It was a really fun transition because Oracle, and particularly Ellison, basically said, hey, we know you're so different from Oracle in what you do, so we're going to create a business unit for you, and I want you to go out and build that up. And we ended up doing some really fun acquisitions to build the Oracle Data Cloud. into what became a $500 million a year data business, separate of the software side of the business. So it was a lot of fun. It wasn't your typical get acquired and, just do your time. This was a fun ride.
Yeah. So this time that you were building and you still were able to preserve the entrepreneurial spirit, but you actually had a budget and a war chest and a major brand and bankers and someone to manage payroll.
Yeah, exactly. That was fun.
Excellent. Okay, so now what do you do on your time off in between BlueKai and today? And we'll jump
I went back to my roots after BlueKai. I wanted to do something with AI because when I did my master's in computer science, it was in AI. And I remember the first job I took, I was like, I want to do something in AI. And they almost laughed at me. Like back then it was like, yeah, that's like a pet project. And so I didn't really professionally get to explore that. And one of my best friends, was just a fantastic guy who had built so many systems in AI in important places. He was like at Google when they were first building, image recognition into maps to make sure that no human faces were showing up in the maps. He was at Microsoft when they first did handwriting recognition from the devices that could actually, look at you writing in notepads and do that. He was at Facebook and did some really good stuff there. He was just a pioneer. And his boss for some time was Jan LeCun, also one of the fathers of deep learning. So me and him got together and went back to our roots, and we built an AI company, and it was a fun ride. 2 years in, we got acquired by Cisco. And it was a little bit of a hiatus from the ad industry, but loved every second of it.
So now you're built out, and you continue to build out Rembrand. So do you want to talk us through that? Because I know that there is a kind of like strategic repositioning around that. Let's get into that.
Awesome. So Rembrand from day one had a very simple mission. It took my learning from AI and from the advertising world, because 20 years of programmatic advertising has seen us getting better and better and better at efficiency. How to bid the right ad to the right person in the right context at the right price. We've become so good at that as a $100 billion industry, but at the same exact time, consumers have become really, really good at avoiding our ads, at basically paying money through Netscape and Amazon Prime and all these things to literally say, stop interrupting my content. I don't want it. And most ad executives I meet who will allocate billions of budget of advertising that is interruptive literally go home and make sure that they don't see any of those ads because they pay money to avoid them. That's not sustainable, and they are not alone. Even when consumers can't pay to avoid it, they hit the skip button when they can, and if they can't skip, they'll pull up another device and look at it instead of the ad. So we are at a point where we need another way to break through to human attention that's sustainable and scalable. That's why I started Rembrand. And the opportunity we saw was, rather than interrupting the content people love, why don't you become part of the content they love without interrupting it? And to do that, what we did is we took a page from the book of product placement, which was an existing industry. It's, billions in dollars in size, but it's entirely manual. It's like 3 years before a movie, you negotiate to get into the script. And it's a very bespoke process, and it's very expensive, and it's very manual. And so what we wanted to do was turn it into a technology where you could take something as fast moving as a influencer's content created at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning and rewrite the content to have, a brand integrated in it in a non-interruptive but eye-catching way, and do it purely with software and do it at the scale of a media business. That's what's been guiding us. That's what Rembrand's been up to from day one.
So now you're delivering this offering to creators as well as to brands, as well as to agencies. It puts you in a position where you're kind of like, you've kind of like compressed that integration and that sales cycle from what you would see in traditional product placement realms, and moving it to more of an integrated buy that helps everyone just get there faster with more efficiency. Can you talk through your thought process? Like, how did you move from product placement to where you are today?
Yeah, so it was a really cool evolution. Like, we called it virtual product placement when we started about 13, 14 months ago. And but what happened is, while we were placing the products in there, some marketers were saying, okay, I get that it's in the scene. How do I know the consumer sees it? So what we started to do is measuring the comments below and watching what consumers were saying. And we, by accident, noticed that when we had a cool animation, the comments skyrocketed in a very positive way. They started talking about it, and it was a positive discussion. So then we started saying, great, let's actually alter the way we're animating so that we can see consumers like or not like and become better at what we do. So that's the first step that was different than what you get from product placement, which is more static. The second thing we started to do was to give tools to the creator to tell us when to animate so that it was more contextually relevant. So for example, we had a chess streamer tell us 4 points in the game when to animate the bottle that was sitting on the table, and we did that. 11% of the comments on the chess video were about the animating bottle. So we were like, oh, wow, we're on to something here. Then what we did is we started to work with the ad agency and said, instead of us coming up with the animation, you tell us what you want to do. And now you've got the brains of the ad agency figuring out how to deliver a story, and then you have the brains of the creator figuring out how to integrate it at the right point. This is becoming way more than what product placement was. It's a new thing. We're calling it in-scene media because of the fact that it has some of the benefits of a sponsorship because you get the influence from the sponsor, but it has the benefits of media, which is it can be run at much higher scale without all this bespoke work, with all this contractual work. We want to make it much more like programmatic. So that was a really nice evolution from what was virtual product placement into this more integrated in-scene media.
So how do you ensure that this new format maintains a brand integrity as well as authenticity within that content and the context?
Yeah, let's take those as two separate topics, since they're really, really good. Both are meaty. Let's talk with the brand integrity. So first thing we do is that we start with the audience target for the brand. We don't immediately go to content creators that, like, for instance, if you're going to put shampoo somewhere, we don't expect content creators to be talking about shampoo. What we do is say, who buys shampoo? Who are you trying to market this campaign to? And then what we do is we use analytics to figure out the creators that hit that audience the most, which means that some of the placements are non-endemic. They're related to the audience, but not necessarily the discussion that's going on in the video. So that's number one, is free yourself from the contextual constraint. No surprise that, the BlueKai guy would come up with that same idea again. Go to the audience. That's not a surprise. So, and the advertisers loved it because it meant that they could tap into, 50 million creators, not just only the creators talking about the content related to their topic, which was, it broadened the opportunity for them. So one, to go non-endemic. Number two is, once we create a list of creators that we already work with and hand them to the brand, they can subset that list and say, well, here's the 80% of what you told us that we really think matches our brand voice and, who we care to be around. So we go from audience to creator list, and then they get to choose a creator list. They never have to just take anything we give them, right? So they get that level of control. That's number two. Number three, now a video comes in at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. We're not going to wake up the brand and say, take a look at how your product looks. You have to do all this algorithmically. So we do another few levels of brand safety checks. The first one is we read the transcript in real time. Not we, the algorithms read them in real time. And they look for categories of problems. Is it political content? Is it violent content? Does it have competitors listed in the transcript? All that. So we filter out anything that's bad there, and they get to input what we filter for as part of the campaign interface. Next thing we do is we look for, we use visual algorithms to look at the scenes and make sure we don't see people who are naked, or we don't see competitive logos, we don't see blood, things that might not be in the transcript but visually in the scene. That's what we do. And then finally what we do is we do a thematic analysis using large language models So for example, once we ran into this use case where someone was talking about miscarriages for, the majority of the conversation. And there was nothing bad about a miscarriage. There's nothing that would trip up our algorithms looking for unsafe words, but thematically not happy for a brand that is selling a product that might be about happiness. And so we learned how to filter for that too. So now we have all these different levels of algorithmic checks. The brand chooses the creator. They give us the algorithmic checks. They give us the creative, and that's how they assert their brand integrity. I'll get to the authenticity question in a minute, but did I kind of get at what you were looking for on brand integrity?
Yeah, you nailed it. Now, you want to keep going to authenticity?
Authenticity. I'm going to say something that's really counter what people talk about when they talk about authenticity, because this discussion really made me laugh when I'd sit with both brands and some creators, and they'd say, well, we want something authentic. When I pay a creator to pick up my product and read the script I asked them to, it's much more authentic. I had to hold myself from laughing. Right? Like, are you going to go into a bar and pay a friend to tell you what you want them to say? That's not authenticity. So what we do is let's just admit that. It is fine for you to find someone who's like more looks authentic, but that's not authenticity. So what we do is we basically say, we are not going to ask you to say anything you don't want. As a matter of fact, don't even talk about the product. We want you to authentically talk about exactly what your audience wants and what you want, ignoring us and the brand. It's our job to visually integrate a product that matches your character and that fits in the scene, and you get to approve it or not, Mr. Creator, and the brand gets to approve it or not because they chose a creator. So it's authentic in the sense that each one chooses the other, but we're not asking them to say things they wouldn't naturally say.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting take on authenticity, because people are used to, they're used to like hate authenticity.
All right, so you're bringing the list of creators to the brand. You bring the animation and insertion to the brand. So you're making it so much easier for everyone to just work together, right? And then, so now let's talk about the future of content creators in this new era of AI.
Yeah, this is a really interesting thing is, if you look at, there's 50 million creators out there, and there's a vast subset of that can actually make a living off of this. And so what we wanted to do was recognize that, because talent is pretty much universally distributed. I mean, in a country like the US, we tend to have this view that we got all the talent and other people are busy trying to catch up to us. And it's just not true. Humans everywhere are talented. And so what we wanted to do was to recognize that it's opportunity that's not evenly distributed. Talent is, opportunity's not. And if we could create a technology that could scale globally, that will allow talented people everywhere to get a piece of the monetization, we would be fueling creativity in a very democratic way. Now, that's our vision. Day one, did we deliver that? Hell no. Like, it takes time to deliver that. You have to build up a big, set of advertisers with enough budget to fund somebody, who gets up into countries all over the world and are able to express themselves intelligently and good to the audience and get good monetization. That's what we want to get to, and we think we're going to get there.
So what were some of the key challenges you faced in scaling your technology and operations to meet the next level of demand?
Yeah, I think we went through, like, I'd say 3 phases. The first phase was just getting live with a very small number of creators and brands and making sure that, the technology works, that we're delivering what we want. And we did that. And we did that in the first 3 months. And I would not call that product market fit. That wasn't even product market fit. And then we started saying, great, hey, global brands, we've done this with some small brands. Would you like to try it? And when they started doing it and they started like paying for these like larger campaigns, we had enough money to please the creators. And what we noticed was that the creators were coming back every single week. So we started to figure out product market fit on the creator side very early in our evolution. And we were very happy about that, because if you keep the creators happy, they're going to produce great content, which gives us opportunity to grow the brand. And then as we were starting to work with the brands, we had to figure out what is going to get these folks to renew and introduce us to more brands within their portfolio. And I'd say, starting, November and December of last year and going into this year, that's when we started honing in on exactly what would really please them. And we started to see renewals almost across the board and expansions of new brands in. And now, we're just expanding the team. So we finally got to the point that we had product market fit on the brand side and on the creator side. To be clear, though, you never, ever have complete product market fit. You're always evolving.
We talked about how you approach the ethical considerations when you're developing insertions and solutions, right? How are you looking at this from, in general, like AI, the responsibility, ethics, and governance that needs to go along with artificial intelligence, especially as we approach an election cycle, not just for us, but for a lot of countries around the world, and in this era of video?
Yeah, this is, first off, I'm gonna start with alarming. Hopefully has nothing to do with my business, and then I'll talk about what we have to do to stay away from the alarming. So last election cycle, we didn't have generative, but we had this capability of massively spreading misinformation. And it was leveraged into disastrous results globally, not just in the United States. In many other elections, you found these ways to make up stories and then exploit rage in social circles. So that was the last one. Here we have this compounded problem that not only do we know how to exploit rage with misinformation, instead of having one big false story, for 500 subsegments of the population, I can use generative techniques to create 500 tailored small stories that are all false and all tap into the nerve that little microgroup wants to hear. So we're in a bad place in terms of the ability to massively scale and personalize misinformation. We as a society have to get a lot better at understanding when misinformation is being created. We have to understand when something is hallucinating, because a lot of these algorithms hallucinate not even on purpose. Like that's just how they're constructed.
Yeah, for now.
So we need, for now. And we need all sorts of techniques of being able to fight this. And there are techniques and companies doing great work here. I just wanted to highlight when you were talking about some of the risks. You're spot on, and we're going to see some of that in this election cycle. In terms of what we do, we are a bit lucky because we are both our inputs from the advertiser and the creator are licensed inputs with legal contracts around them with very specific tight controls over what we can do with the data. So, for example, when an advertiser is giving us the creative, that creative isn't put into our training set, and it is licensed for use in certain ways in the output that we create, which is, rewriting the video to include, a can of bubbly. So they've given us the rights to do exactly what we do, and we can't do more than what they give us the rights to. And on the creator side, we also have rights from the creator to rewrite the video, to do, someone once accused me of being a benign deep fake. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a video that's real, and I take a creative that's not, and I put it in there, and it's benign. And as a matter of fact, it makes money, makes everybody happy. But we do that with rights management that constrain the rights of what we can do with those videos. So we don't at all look like, someone who's building an LLM by spidering the web and then getting sued by the New York Times because they feel like they didn't get to do. We don't have that problem in what we do. And I think we're lucky.
Now that you brought up the New York Times, let's get into that. So you had you like that segue?
Yeah.
So you had a great article in the New York Times, and it mentioned that Rembrandt's technology allows for the incorporation of digital lifelike product depictions into videos and social media platforms, right? YouTube, TikTok, elsewhere. So how is this capability differing from what those guys offer, right, at the platforms themselves? And what has it been like to work with them, knowing that you're bringing another advertising solution to those platforms that they may or may not have in-house right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much nobody has this in-house. Everything that we saw before this was a use of AI that would look at an image or a video and figure out where you could do something, and then they would just hire a bunch of VFX people to do it, and it would take them, weeks and tens of thousands of dollars. This is the first time that we've done it with real automation and AI to actually do the whole thing. Now, why is this even different than what you've seen with, classic generative, I should use the word classic, it's not old enough, but generative techniques outside what we do. The difference is that we're not really generative, we are regenerative, meaning generative takes something and say, something like Sora will say, hey, show me a picture of two white, cute puppies playing. And then when you see this picture, you're like, or a video of 30 seconds, you're like super impressed. That's creating something from new, and your mind has very little constraint on what that new thing could look like, so you're easily impressed. But regenerative is saying, I'm taking an existing picture of Donovan with his wall, with the picture behind it. And when I regenerate, if anything is out of place, your eye's instantly going to catch it, because you know what your picture looks like, or if you had a dog, you know what your dog looks like. And so regenerative has to preserve all the real looking things that are already there, and then we fuse in something that wasn't there that also has to look real and has to take into account, the movement of the camera, shadows, motion, your hand covering the picture behind you, all these kinds of things we have to be aware of in order to make something physically look real. So regenerative fusion is all about controllability. It's about rewriting a video and controlling the way you rewrite it so that you honor the laws of lighting, of motion, of depth, of color, of material reflectivity, and consistency across shots. So it's a very different application of generative techniques. It uses similar algorithms underneath it in some ways, but introduce a whole different set of techniques.
Can you share your vision for the future evolution of Rembrandt's technology and its potential impact on the creator economy?
Yeah, great question. So essentially what we want to be able to do is take any video, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, any video, and it doesn't even have to be from creator. It could be from publisher, it could be from TV, it could be from Netflix, it could be from Apple, it could be from a live sports stream, any video, and integrate any brand in a contextually sensitive way, in a way that grabs the attention of the consumer without interrupting it, and monetize that at the level of tens of billions of dollars so that creators everywhere can enjoy this as a substitute for interruptive advertising.
What's that look like? What's going to be the next cool thing that we see coming out of Rembrand?
Yeah, so if I kind of expand from where we are today we're working with YouTube and TikTok, mainly indoors with fixed cameras. And what we want to be able to do is start using outdoors, much more dynamic moving camera situations. Sometimes we avoid close-ups because there's no room to place a product. We're going to have to figure out how to put a logo on your shirt or a tattoo on your skin, or to do other things that enable us to pretty much accommodate any video opportunity to put a product. So that's number one. Number two is we're going to need to accommodate real time. So essentially what we're using is augmented reality techniques, but they're post-production. We need to get fast enough that we can not wait till post-production and do it in real time. So it could be for streaming events, like live action sports, and so on. The next level of evolution is going to be around fitting it into programmatic, so that you can do these buys in your programmatic platform just like you do any buy, and bid for situations like this programmatically, and not have to do it in a separate platform like we do currently. That would be kind of another evolution of it. The other evolution that we already have started and we're starting to further is, instead of waiting for creators and editors to finish a video or a movie and hand it to us and then put in the product, we're starting to embed ourselves in the editing tools, so that while they're constructing, they can see their options and they say, oh, well, Bubbly fits better than Starry for me. Or, hey, they gave me 4 different options: a poster, a 3D object, 2 3D objects, an object post jumping out of my poster. I'll choose the one that fits the scene I want early in my editor process, not as a, post step. So I'd say those are some of the interesting things that we're doing. I'd say maybe a couple years out where it'll start to get really pushing the needles. Right now, we don't have the creator interact too deeply with the product. It's sitting next to them. But at some point, I want to be able to put the can in your hand and have you drink it, and even say something where you didn't have to actually do that in the original filming. And so that will be an interesting evolution also.
With all of these advances, how would you address concerns around transparency and disclosure of sponsored content to users?
Yeah, we had to address that from day one. So today we have multiple forms of disclosure. The first thing we do is as soon as a product appears in the scene, we put a visual bar at the bottom saying this is brought to you by, and it stays there for a few seconds so people notice the disclosure. We also put a statement below the video saying this is sponsored by right at the top, by the name of the brand, and also creators can tag the videos to say this is sponsored content. And so there's multiple disclosures that happen on every video that we do, and that's a requirement of the FTC. We've gone beyond the requirements of the FTC, and we're going to continue to always do that. What I'd like to see it evolve to is there's going to be standards that are accepted by the industry around showing when AI has altered video content. We've done some tests on how to integrate into those standards so that at some point it would be like a nutrition label. You can click on an I button like we did with advertising, and you can see in which ways did AI alter this content. I would like to see it evolve in that way.
Interesting. So do you think that's coming soon, or what's the guidance around that?
I would probably say within about a year in order for you to find the right groups. There's, an organization that has Adobe in it and Microsoft and a whole other folks that's all about, it's a coalition for content authenticity. And I think that group has the best chance of becoming an accepted standard that people will start integrating to.
What other insights can you provide us around Rembrandt's go-to-market strategy and plans for expanding into new markets and new verticals? So how are you going to grow? What's this looking like?
Yeah, so I think there's at least 3 dimensions of growth. One dimension is around what type of video content we do. We started out with YouTube, we added TikTok, we did some stuff with LinkedIn. I want to start adding all sorts of other types of content, including professional movie content and, live streaming. That's one vector of increased our go-to-market, which requires, in addition to go-to-market expansion, technology expansion. Another vector is around going global. We're largely US. We just started now launching some campaigns in the UK, and we'll start expanding to the EU. This is a visual technology, so you're not limited by, language problems in different countries. So we can expand globally instantly. The only thing that requires more go-to-market work is that you need to find creators that tailor to their content to that region and bring them into your network. So expanding globally will be kind of the second important expansion. And then the third expansion beyond that would really be about diving into budget pools that are around programmatic and kind of expanding the applicability so that a big advertiser could just log into DV360 or the Trade Desk and have this stuff accessible to them.
What does this look like over the next few years? Does this look like something where you end up partnering and collaborating with a whole lot of other platforms that want your technology but don't have it? Or is this something that someone says, we just have to acquire these guys and move on?
Yeah, so I never know how to plan that last thing that you just said, but here's what I do know. We don't see ourselves as a media company. Like right now, the way you interact with us is you buy an IO. And we deliver those media impressions through creator content, whether that creator content is on YouTube or TikTok or elsewhere. It's a single IO gets all of that. What we're building is a business model that will allow us to embed so that other distribution people can just use our technology behind the scenes and plug it in, and you can buy that through them. We want to be able to do what like DoubleClick did. They ended up having DoubleClick for advertisers, DoubleClick for publishers. They had DV360. They had a ad exchange. We don't want to be business model limited. We want to be a technology company that makes super engaging, non-interruptive advertising using AI and allow you to buy it either by buying an IO or by buying it through a partner that happens to embed our technology or using our API at a lower level. That's how we see ourselves being able to integrate into all the platforms.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs looking to leverage AI, machine learning to disrupt traditional industries?
When you're disrupting an industry, I think it's very important to come from that industry because you are going to get 100 obstacles on adoption if you don't know what those obstacles already are because you were in it. You were the buyer yourself. And so this is advice I give to entrepreneurs coming out of college, which is to say, everybody wants to disrupt something because, entrepreneurs use the word disruption as if it's a good word. And that works if you're a consumer, because a college student is a consumer and they can introspect into their own experience to figure out how to improve it. Mark Zuckerberg didn't have to see 22 social networks to figure out what he wanted to do with Facebook, right? So that's fine if you're doing a consumer thing where you can introspect. But if you're an entrepreneur entering an area that's a complex ecosystem, ad tech and media is a complex ecosystem with multiple layers, where a bunch of the leaders in that industry, as you know very well, know each other out of decades of working with each other. And if you're going to show up out of like the meatpacking industry and try to disrupt this, good luck. You've got a lot working against you, and you're going to have to I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying the odds are stacked against you. So my advice would be, if you're going to disrupt an industry, get into that industry and understand the buyers' desires, needs, obstacles in a deep way. If you're going to disrupt it in a way that's productive, that would be my advice. And if, however, you don't want to do that, then instead of disrupting it directly, go into a consumer industry or go into a very deep technical API industry where you're selling to developers like you. But disrupting people you don't understand is not always productive.
So for advertisers that have tried this, what is it about this that they love?
What's happening with advertisers that jump into this is it bottoms out into essentially two pillars that we found they got excited about. We thought they'd get excited about a whole bunch of stuff, but the two that really stuck with them is that this is attention media that moves their customers. So what do they mean by that? Attention media. Attention's under attack. It's under assault. And if you're paying for a 30-second ad, people are not watching the whole 30-second ad. They're watching way less of it. So what we mean here is we're now able to get far more attention. These products might sit in videos for minutes on end, and they are seen. So that's number one. And number two is we were able to use, techniques like Kantar studies and so on to see actual lift in unaided brand awareness, in purchase intent, favorability, because this grabbed their attention. And then the other half of it is, okay, it grabbed their attention and we measure it. Did it move my customer? And it turns out we look at the comments below the videos and we see it really is moving customers. Not only that, are they commenting on it, they're liking other consumers' comments on it. And then when you later show them a 30-second spot on that same brand, the video completion rate jumps up. So it lifts the rest of your media. And when we end up tying economics to it, it turns out that this is 4 times cheaper than a 30-second spot on a cost per second viewed basis. So it's even more efficient. So that's what they gravitated to. And honestly, if you would have asked me this a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to give you this answer. We had all these other hypotheses on what they wanted, but this is what stuck.
I'm glad it's all come together for you and for the entire Rembrand team.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So thanks again. So looking forward to seeing you at some point in person. I appreciate the time, appreciate the relationship. So this is great. And we'll catch up later on.
Awesome. I'll be at the upfronts if you're anywhere in the area.